It worked. Miracle.
Yeah. Well, you did it. I didn't really do much of anything.
Well, to be honest, it was positivity in your vibes that add to it. So I think it's a whole. We underestimate the importance of like a support system, I think, sometimes. So I appreciate it. But for anyone who's joining, welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. I am extremely excited about my next guest. I hope I'm saying your name right. I get names wrong really often on this show, but I'm going to go for it. Ciara Chantelle. Did I get it right? I nailed it. Awesome. Next time I'll get it wrong again. We'll be back to being humbled. But absolutely really excited about this episode and this guest. She is absolutely amazing. Performer, artist, writer, talking about all these different topics in terms of I've seen everything from parenting to dating to society to mindset to literally all of it. Mental health, expression, and just being your authentic self. So I'm really excited because I think you've got a very interesting kind of perspective, and I think you found a really cool lane in terms of being able to show not only yourself but discuss interesting topics in an interesting way. So, and obviously the way I found you was through your spoken word poetry as well, which is really, really entertaining, and I think kind of lends itself to why I wanted to have you on the show. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure.
Wow. Thank you. That is a beautiful introduction. I really appreciate that. But no, thank you for inviting me onto your show. I am excited. I'm excited to just, build with you. And I'm really glad you found that video. I mean, shout out to the internet and to community and to supporters, but we're here. So, I'm excited. I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, I think it's interesting because in a weird way, I'm sure when you started expressing yourself and you started exploring your art, you probably didn't see where it could go. Like, how does it feel when you now look at it and now see how many people are responding positively, and you're essentially saying a lot of things that people, although maybe haven't expressed, they inherently feel? Like, do you get a perspective on that?
Yeah, so it's actually been an overwhelmingly dope feeling recently. So initially, I started writing very, very young. And I say young, I mean as young as maybe like 5, 6 years old. I was always teacher's pet, always reading and writing, a student in those subjects. So writing was always kind of my thing, exploring writing. And I think once I became familiar with performing and the possibilities of performing, that's when I kind of envisioned sharing my work on a bigger scale, on a grander scale. What I didn't realize was the impact of vulnerability. So initially, I think it was more so just about me expressing what I couldn't express to those around me, those in my immediate circle or my immediate family. Just being able to express that and get it out into the world and just say, hey, like I do poetry. This is my life. These are my experiences. So that's one thing. It's an entirely different thing when people from other states and from other parts of the world are just like, hey, I feel that exact same way. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know who I could say it to, but I completely resonate and relate. And that is bigger than I could have imagined. That's such a, especially for someone who found, I want to say, some sort of serenity or relief in writing and just being so private, to now have that vulnerability be public and then just be received so positively. It's as scary as it is amazing.
You said some interesting things to me, and I definitely understand that as soon as you put like your inner self out there, it's like, will they reject it? Will they accept it? And it is extremely scary, especially in such a public forum. But what interests me is you said that you didn't feel comfortable, or you weren't ready to share it with the people in your immediate circle. And in a weird way, it's easier to share it with strangers than it is with people that really know you intimately. And I think that's, from what it sounds like, a lot of the audience. I know I go through that as well. Is like, it's easier for me to talk to a stranger and talk on this show than it is sometimes talk to my family and my friends about the things that I'm feeling. But
Right.
why do you think that is? Why do you think that, for whatever reason, we don't feel comfortable or ready to open up with our close people? You would think it's the opposite.
Yeah, so from experience and just from things that I've heard and read, I often think that that's a like a trauma kind of based response, because at some point in our life we wanted to express or articulate something, whether that have been a fear or an ambition, a goal, a secret, anything. At some point in our lives, we wanted to share that with somebody who we thought was safe and that we thought we could trust, and it was rejected, it was denied. And I think it becomes a fear, just, of judgment, of being secluded for whatever it is that you want to share, or just kind of expose. So I think I also feel like we generally, like in society today, everyone is aspiring to just be like all happy and have their shit together, and like everyone is just living life and great and rich and just traveling the world. And so in one aspect, we already have like a bunch of people who are trying to prove that they're okay and that they're doing great. We already know that that's a thing, that exists, that front, so that doesn't disappear when we think about the family dynamic or like a generational dynamic. We often come from families that are like traditional or super religious. We have rules in the house, and we don't want to disturb that. And it's just, I think it's just a little bit easier to be out in the world, and you don't have that. You can't really be abandoned by a person that you don't feel owes you anything. You understand? So it's a little bit easier in sharing that, at least in my reality. I couldn't speak for the whole world, but I just know that there's a lot of pressure and tension that comes with living up to standards, just trying to prove, my family is good, we don't complain, we're not weak, we don't have secrets, where everything is fine. And the reality is that 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. But who do we have to talk about it to? Who do we have to talk about it to other than the strangers? So yeah, that's my take on that.
It's an interesting kind of dynamic where a family, in a way, acts like a society, in the sense that we have our own identity as to what we as our family name stand for and represent. And then anything outside of that is seen as not correct or something we push to the side. It's
Right.
I never really thought about that before, until like literally this moment, that can be the case, that even at a really small insular level, every family has its own identity and its own essentially brand, as fucked as it sounds, that it wants to put out to the world and represent, not only like to the bigger world, but also to their social circles. So you probably have hit the nail on the head in terms of what it is trying to do. But when your family found out and started listening, I'm sure they've seen what you do by now. I hope so.
Yeah.
Were they surprised by the things you were expressing?
Okay. So my family does indeed. They do follow. They do know that I do poetry. I've been doing it for quite some time, so my family is very well aware. However, I don't think I don't think they've been in the position to be able to receive exactly what it is that I'm saying, and or just like the time, or just the time to really dive into the things that I'm saying. And we don't necessarily have conversations about these pieces. So yeah, there's really no comment. I think when it comes to my poetry career, my family is just excited that I'm being able to share what I've been doing for so long. But in terms of the vulnerability aspect of it, the things that I'm actually saying, I'm not sure anyone really quite understands or gets it. In fact, I've never had a conversation with anyone in my family about any of my pieces. Wow. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think especially recently, especially when like COVID hit, I think everybody in the world just kind of went into every man for himself kind of vibe. And and capitalism is a bitch. It's a real thing. I think a lot of people went into more of a survival mode. So I think it just became more about people and what they're doing and less about others. So I kind of just I left my job. I left corporate America about 3 years ago, and I've been doing this full time since. And I think since then I've gotten more vulnerable in my work, and it just so happens, a coincidence, I guess, that at that same time, my family has become less involved. And it's not intentional. I absolutely know that it's not intentional. It just so happened to work that way. So I wonder if we really sat down, or if they sat down today, and listened to those heavier, deeper pieces, what they would think. But it would be a lot more thinking than conversing about it anyway.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting that now you are able to draw parallels between moments in your life and relationships in your life as well. I think that often happens, that when you're finding your own path, inherently there is distance between the old parts of you because they're represented in others as well. And they
Yeah.
don't even know. And so, as you said, it may not even be conscious, it may just be subconscious. But I would be interested in, like, even just a part of me is really interested in humans and who we are and the stories we have, and we're so complicated yet so simple all at the same time. We
Yeah.
all have this link, no matter which background we come from, no matter, there's always something that I feel like every person, if they just sat in a room one on one, you could find a commonality in there. And I wonder if they listened to your poetry and then you spoke, I wonder what the emotional place of not only where you would be if you could see them listen to it, but then also if you could
Yeah.
talk about it afterwards. I wonder what that would do to not only your own growth, but also to theirs and their understanding of you. Like, I don't know. I think there's huge opportunity. And obviously where I'm living in this fantasy world where, like, you all of a sudden are like, hey, let's sit together and do this. But there is definitely something there of, it would intrigue me a lot to know what would happen in a scenario like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that too, but just like you said, I think I've also lived in a fantasy world of wanting things to just turn out in my favor, especially when you really love someone and you crave that reciprocal validation, that energy. I think just being let down is a lot harder. It feels a lot heavier. So especially when you've done it, especially when they say, like, what is that quote, that like, insanity, if you keep doing things over and over expecting different results, like that's the definition of insanity. So I refuse to allow my desire to keep someone in my life to also keep me insane. And there just comes a point where, you know, you have to show better than you can tell. So in my instance, let's say who would I be to come back to my family, right? And share these pieces and how I feel and how we can move forward. If I have yet to kind of display that in my own life. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's just so my idea with it all, pretty much the conclusion of it all, is just that if I can focus on what Ciara enjoys, who Ciara is, find out who Ciara is, and just keep moving forward and learn how to interact with grace, then at some point, I think that if it's supposed to happen, it will. But I am a very self-first kind of individual at this point in my life. And yeah, I don't think I kind of dwell or I don't even want to use the word dwell or even just kind of sit in that, oh, like I wonder what if, like I've done that to myself since I was a kid, and not to even be all heavy, like it's not even the end of the world. The reality is that, you grow up craving the validation, the love, and then when it comes from your immediate family or your parents or whomever, when it's shot down, it's just like there's only so much I can do. I can't spend the rest of my life doing this. I could use all of this on me and what I love and the things I enjoy and the people that want to be around and the people that want to understand and the people who are like-minded. So maybe one day, but in the meantime, it's not, and again, it's not like there's hostility or beef or any malicious intent between anyone. It's just the reality is just, there are different belief systems, different ways in which we address situations, different ways in which we communicate, and that is okay. I think that is absolutely okay. I'm okay with that.
Well, that's good at least. That's good.
Yeah.
As you were speaking, and you were talking about your own standards and where you want to get, Ciara in her own life of like, this is where I need to be before I can get others back in. And it's interesting because I think this is common, and I do it to myself as well, is we set impossible standards of almost perfection. And to be like, and the reality is we will never reach the level we want to, because the nature of someone who wants to self-improve is the fact that no matter how much you improve, you will never be satisfied with how far.
Yeah.
It's always the next level. And I've had this conversation with my friends, and I've thought about this a lot. It is difficult. And I think something I realized in my life is that I will never be perfect in the image that I want to be. I will always strive for what the ultimate perfection is. I never really know. It's always changing. But then the people in my life, it's almost not fair for me to hold them to the same standard that I hold myself, because I'm overly harsh. But acknowledging their flaws has helped me become a better person in the relationship. I had a difficult relationship with my father for a while, and I started seeing a lot of flaws in him. And I was like, why are you flawed? That was the thing that was going in my head. Why are you flawed like this? And the challenge for me was to go, hey, you're still my father. You have these flaws, but you are still an important part in my life. And I can choose to either have you or not have you. But the choice of having you around and accepting your flaws and accepting that you are as fallible as anyone else is important. Because I never had that problem with my mum. I was like, she has flaws for sure, but I never had to go through the same thing. I've always been like very close with her. So it's an interesting dynamic, and it allowed for my own self-peace. That's what it was. It was like letting myself off the hook to not be as judgmental on others, because I'm already doing that internally, instead of just like, because I would cut off, like realistically, if you held everyone to the same standard as you, no one would measure up, because you don't even measure up to your own standards.
This is very true. That's facts. That's facts. And I also think that you touched on like it being really important, just understanding that, your parents could make mistakes too, and you could either accept them or not accept them. I think it's also, just to add to that, I think it's important that we understand, even me especially, like just the journey I've been on, it's that our parents are often a reflection of their parents too. So a lot of what they can and cannot give us are often, you know, what their parents did and did not give them. So being able to look at it from that perspective also, it's just like some parents are literally doing the best that they absolutely can do, you know, but, you know, again, you you have to put yourself first, even if that entails having your parents in your life, if that's the best thing for you. But yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I'm
Yeah.
glad you and your dad are. I'm glad everything is cool. Everything is
Yeah, I'm
solid
glad
ground.
too. It was a weird period. Like me and my brothers weren't speaking to him, and it was just like a whole thing. But there was a period, and it was. I realized I was hurting myself by harboring onto resentment and holding onto resentment, and that when I thought of him, I felt negative emotions, and I didn't want that. And I was just like, you know what? It's time. Me and my brothers, we did it in separate times. I think my youngest brother was the fastest to realize that, and I was in the middle. But I think it was just like this. Sometimes you have to forgive in order to free yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just what I found.
I think that's an interesting. I think that's such an interesting concept of having to, like. So do you think you have to forgive? You have to forgive the other. Is it the other person you're forgiving, or is it yourself that you're forgiving in order to be free?
It's a little bit of both. It's, I think,
Okay.
forgive but don't forget. It's like I still remember, but it
Mhm.
is, there is something where I'm not going to allow that to, it's like drinking from the poison chalice. Like if you keep drinking the poison, you're only feeding that in your own mind, and it
Yeah.
only creates negativity in your own mind. And there will be negativity in life, but you can still redefine a relationship. And that's what we
Mhm.
have now. So it's not like we went back to what it was before, but we
Mhm.
still are at a better place where I don't feel angry, annoyed whenever I speak to him or whenever we even talk about it. And so the freedom is in the sense that I've gone through the journey of feeling all that shit and I don't want to feel it again.
Yeah.
But we now have a redefined relationship that I am happy with or okay with, as opposed
I
to
like
the
that.
relationship which we had, which was not good. That was
Yeah.
the middle ground. And I think it's giving, I don't know, I think it's giving yourself permission, again, putting yourself first to be like, this is also what I need, even if it
Mhm.
looks quote unquote weak. Like forgiveness
Yeah.
is associated with weakness, but I don't think that's the case. I think if you really looked at it, if you can honestly forgive, and I think there is power and strength to that because it shows
Yeah.
strength of character.
I like that. I like that. Okay. I agree. I feel schooled.
Literally, I don't know how I say half the shit that I say. It comes out of my mouth. As I said, none of this is planned, but I think you're like, each of us go on our own journey, and that's what I like about your work, is that it's
Yeah.
open and honest. And speaking of work, I mean, you've got one of your art pieces behind you. So
Yeah, I actually, one of my roommates that had actually gotten it. So yeah, and besides, this is the lightest area I could get at the moment. So it just so happened to be right next to one of my art pieces, which I was actually thinking the other day. This is actually my most original piece that I've ever done, ever. I mean, it can't be that original because I painted someone else's character, but in terms of the idea, yeah, and I know that was random, but it was just a fun fact.
what made you think it was original? Like, what was it, a feeling?
I so yeah, I remember. So there's this place. Have you ever been to Philly?
No.
No, never. Okay. There's this place in Philly. It's called a Graffiti Pier Park. And it's pretty much just like imagine about three buildings, but they're demolished. And these amazing graffiti artists just came in and just did their work over every single inch of cement. That's what Graffiti Pier is. And I'm not sure how the idea came to light. I think it was right. It might have been right before the Sonic movie came out. I'm not sure. But I remember just laying down and it was just, I remember thinking in my head, it would be really cool if like Sonic could just like come through one of his rings and just like jump out into Graffiti Pier Park. Like, I wonder what that would look like. And it kept popping in my head for a long time. And then finally I just painted it. And I think it was gone the same day. Like, I think I finished it and posted it, and that day it was gone.
To be honest, it looks really good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Like it reminds me of, we've got a lane in Melbourne. It's called Hosier Lane, and it's got just graffiti art. And so the government, I don't love a lot of the stuff that our government does, but I tell you what, I am a fan of paying the graffiti artists to like add color and flavor, and they have lots of cool pieces of art. It always gets changed. It's one of like the cool streets in like little laneways in Melbourne, if you're ever down. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like graffiti in itself is like a weird kind of, some people hate it, some people like it, but I think if it was channeled the right way, it'd be like, it just, the artistry there is awesome.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. And the ability to, I don't think people realize how great graffiti artists are. Like, that ability to just be so detailed and just so great with the line work and everything. It just, on such a huge space, dude. I gotta come to Melbourne.
But it's also cool. It's also spray cans, so it's not like they have like, it's not like they're using fine lines. That's the crazy part to me, is like they're literally spraying it onto the canvas live.
Yeah, and the spray could get anywhere. That's my thing. It could get anywhere, but they know exactly where to put it, and that's what I love about it. It just, yeah, I don't. That's a mess back there. I don't. Maybe if an actual graffiti artist saw it, they would be like, "What the hell is that, Ciara?" But it's the closest thing I could get.
Yeah, I was speaking to a rapper, and he was saying that he was doing his own art and he was painting, and something that I never realized, and something that he taught me about, was like, the key to art is to paint or to draw what you're feeling. And so that's what I never got. I was horrible at art at school. Like, I just always thought like, I had an image in my mind of this is what I want, and I could never replicate it. But now that he said that to me, my perspective on art is different. So as much as your art may not look like graffiti, it's still perfect because it's a feeling. And so I think that changed, that honestly changed everything for me. It's like, I'm just, So now I can go into an art gallery and be like, it's not perfect, but it's okay. Because I used to be like, not impressed.
Yeah, no, I get that. I feel like I'm still like that today with a bunch of art. So I get it.
Yeah. It's weird how, as much as we create, we're also critical of artists as well.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, though, about like when you're self-critical, how that goes into play with criticizing others, and just, we want to be perfect so badly ourselves that we look at something else and we're like, oh, yuck, that's not perfect. Why would you put that out? Or why would you create that? That's not perfect. And it's just like, shut the fuck up. Like, who are we? Like, there is literally art for every crowd. It's crazy. It's crazy.
it's also really good. I'm glad that there's art for every crowd, because like if it was all the same, like how boring would life be? It would be so boring.
Have you seen like what are those movies? I mean, I gotta think of like one. Okay, have you watched SpongeBob?
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember the episode where Squidward moves into like the real fancy neighborhood, and like all the houses are the same, and all the squids are riding bikes at the same time, and they all do clarinet lessons at the same time, and they all like that's what I that's what I feel like the not that the world is becoming. I'm sure the world has always been that way. But yeah, that's what I'm scared of. That's what I fear. Just that everybody kind of doing the same thing. But it's not the artist's fault. It's these platforms, it's these expectations, it's the algorithms, it's the disrespect to authenticity. But um yeah, I that's it's a little scary. But like we said, there's art for everybody. There's been plenty of times I've seen some really wacky shit while I was out, and you can't really do anything but appreciate the fact that there are so many other people in the world who love this. Like even if you don't, and that's what makes it so cool. So I'm with you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I love that. They're like, hey, that is wacky. That is some wacky shit. But I love it at the same time. That is such a funny experience to go through. Like, that's really weird, but it's good weird. And as much as I may not love it, I know that other people love it. But it's interesting the way you describe like creativity in the sense of like that neighborhood in SpongeBob of like it's the same, everyone does the same thing, everyone lives the same life. It is just super boring and super manufactured. And I think
Yeah.
in a certain sense, music is there at the moment in that world of like mainstream music is in this like weird kind of formulaic model of like, and movies as well. I thought about like I've been speaking about movies a lot. Is like all these blockbuster movies, you can see the story. There is no change in any story. It is generic. You can see the classic kind of hero story archetype and then relationship arc and literally
Yeah.
small challenge, funny, quote unquote, funny quips, and then make $1 billion at the box office because it hits a mass market. And it's just like, oh, we've diluted this so much that we're almost just do ourselves a discredit by not creating or holding ourselves to a better standard in terms of the art we create. Like I'd rather see wacky shit than I would the same thing all the time.
At this point, yeah. Agreed. 100% agreed. Um yeah, I don't even think I have like a response to that. It's so but like we were just saying, it's not it's you go on social media and the world is saying, authenticity sucks, and you have to, and it's unfortunate because so many creatives lose their spark thinking that their work isn't sufficient just because it's not mainstream popular, or just because, so like even when TikTok came out, I remember when TikTok came out, and it was like all the dances and all the songs and stuff. And then you had people who were, and don't get me wrong, it's fine. People can do them. But you had people who were into like real estate, and people who were into just HVAC, who were doing TikTok dance videos in order to increase their engagement. And then I remember at some point seeing people start to complain about that, like, oh, I don't want to have to dance in order to gain more followers, or I don't want to have to act a fool, or, get out of my car while it's still running and dance to Drake just so that I can. And I feel like a lot of creatives unfortunately lose their way like that. They lose their way because what ends up happening is now let's say you do get all that engagement and all those followers and all of your wishes come true. Now you have all these people who are here for a person that doesn't exist. That's not naturally you. You know, you're not naturally a person who wakes up in the morning and goes to their real estate job and wants to do TikTok. Like that's just not. So I also do think that all like the whole underground scene, obviously, I think it's a lot more beautiful than what mainstream portrays. But I do think that the independent artists, the underground artists, the creatives, the producers, the cinematographers, so forth, I think they're all gonna have their time. I think at some point, I think people are starting to realize that the robots and the kind of that whole thing that everybody's trying to be, that whole front, I think that slowly but surely people are just are starting to realize that it is indeed a front. And then hopefully then people just feel more comfortable being themselves. Everybody wants to be a celebrity today, so they are thus living life as one instead of just being whoever their little kid or their little heart desires. So,
and it's what's interesting, it's celebrity for celebrity's sake. Like, it's not like I want to be a celebrity based on value that I add or like how many people I help. I don't want to be known for that. I just want to be famous. And the like TikToker influencer and like, don't get me wrong, we are both of us on TikTok, both of us on Instagram, and both of us doing those things. But I can, in conversations I have with normal people who are like, man, it would be so good to just be like paid to just take photos of myself and do nothing and like just wear brands and go on holidays. And it's like, yeah, but what do you give back? That's always wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What are you producing back? What are you actually giving of value? What are you contributing? What? And even then, you don't have to be this righteous kind of God who comes in and saves the world because you're just better than other people. But the at the end of the day, yeah, what are you giving back? You're taking, yes, but what are you giving? So I get it. The internet is a scary place. And like you said, you and I are both on there. We're on these platforms. But again, I think it's how you use these platforms that really matters. Just making sure that you're utilizing them in just the right capacity is all. So, they can be fun. They can be fun spaces. They can be inspirational, motivational spaces, obviously, but it can also just take away from your creativity. So my motto is no social media unless necessary. And recently it's been a little necessary, a lot more necessary. But yeah, I think especially for mental health purposes, which is the base, the core of what I do. Mental health is just so important. And we see the articles, we see it every day. We do it to ourselves, the comparisons, as soon as we're waking up in the morning, the first thing we're doing is either looking at someone else's life or sharing our life. And it's just like, why do we feel that urge? Why do we feel that need? Why do we so that's
what's interesting is because I'm corporate. I've definitely worked corporate as well, and my career has been in sales. And something you learn in sales is negativity sells more than positivity, like 2x, 2 times more. You will get the fear of missing out is more powerful than the joy of getting something. So that's why sales work, because it's the fear of missing out. And that's why articles have more engagement when it's negative, and negative comments on Instagram, on TikTok have more engagement than positive comments, because we as humans are drawn to negativity more. So it's really interesting. But we inherently as a species are obsessed with negativity. And I don't know why. I would love for it to be more positive, but you know, people have just figured out that negativity sells. And so when people post hateful comments, it's like, this is annoying, but it's also great because I know I'm going to get responses and it's going to feed the machine that is XYZ. So that's why you see controversial figures blow up. Because
this is very true. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's on all sides. The controversy equals attention. Attention means you're talking about, and then you just become polarizing. I think that's the phenomenon we see with literally all the big influencers right now. They just have opinions that polarize, that make people argue, and then it creates engagement, and then people keep talking about it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I don't think I realized or really thought too much into the whole how like negativity sells, but I mean, I suppose that makes a lot of sense. I don't think I've ever really fed into the whole I mean, I myself am not a person who kind of like just follows celebrities or just like the people who blow up and stuff like that. Just because again, you have to be just like really mindful of like what you see and just what you follow. And my thing is just like, it even somebody being controversial, that's subjective. Like, it everything in this world is. So it's, I don't know. That's a kind of soft topic for me there because I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, it's not a nice reality, and it's like but like, just because I know I used to sell that way. I literally used to make sales. I used to work as a salesperson for a bank. I used to sell credit cards and personal loans, all these sexy, cool products. But but you realize the fear of missing out is a powerful motivator of like, don't miss out on, even if it's a positive thing that you want, it's the fear of missing out on this positive thing that will ultimately get the deal across the line. And I didn't know it at the time. I know it now, but it's like just this weird kind, and that's why social media, I think, to your point, is really dangerous and but also useful, because like in China, because TikTok is now owned by China, essentially. It's now a Chinese company. Yeah. But apparently the algorithm in China is to promote education and good things.
Right.
Whereas here, it's like promoting, thirst traps and, fighting and like weird opinions and like divisive things that distract us. That's almost what it feels like. And I'm definitely, I fall into the trap. But yeah, I've had friends go to China and like, TikTok here is way different, man. Like way different.
Yeah. And I think, I guess dangerous could be used too, but I think distracting, I think social media being a distraction is a much better or like clearer term, as you put it. But yeah, it's not completely bad. And in terms of like the fear of missing out, man, dude, I couldn't even, I feel like I have so much anxiety that I deal with on my own and just in my own bubble of life, that I don't think I allow too much of like the external, like I have too much of a fear of missing out on my own things in life that I don't even like. It's very rarely that I have a fear of miss. If anything, I'm just like, oh, I didn't get an invite, bet. Like I can lay up and be comfortable, or like, oh, what? Or, oh, I don't have to buy this thing that's on sale. I didn't have the money anyway, that kind of thing. So, yeah,
you've got the opposite. You've got the joy of missing out.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's, as a kid, I spent a lot of time in seclusion, not on purpose. And as I've grown older, I find so much joy in it. I find so much creativity, so much comfort. But yeah, I rarely experience that fear of missing out thing, just because I mean, there's a bunch of factors we won't get into, but yeah, it is a complete opposite for me. I think so. For me, I think that I work hard, and some people like work hard, play hard, but my play hard is like rest super fucking hard. Like it's just like work and then chill the hell out. And then maybe there's some play in there, absolutely sometimes. But I think I definitely work and rest more than I play.
Hey, you found the rhythm that works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's giving grandma vibes, but it works for me.
That grandma vibes are good vibes at times. To be honest, when I see people like on when I see people on dating apps, I'm like, and they're like sesh on the weekend everywhere, and I'm like, no, can't. I can't. Like literally, don't have the energy or the desire. So someone who's like chill on a Sunday, I'm like, hell yes. Chill on a Sunday sounds awesome to me. But
Yeah.
recovering from a hangover from Saturday night sounds horrendous. So like I definitely feel you when it comes to like a little bit of quiet is good. Going for a walk by yourself is pleasant. I don't need to be
It's
surrounded by
great.
people all the time, even though I am naturally, I think, extroverted.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah, I feel that. And people can be good sometimes. People are fun. People, well, I wouldn't say sometimes. I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of like the interpersonal relationships, in terms of like the stranger relationships. It's like that. I literally apply that with what we're talking about now too. So it's just like I like, oh, like my friends, my family want to see me. I don't know, guys, I don't know, but if there's an event happening, or if I can go somewhere where I'm meeting strangers or connecting with strangers, or something that entails not that immediate kind of surrounding, then I'm usually so excited and all for it. But other than that, yeah, I love the space. I love the space to just think and create and do whatever it is that I have to do. Um, yeah, and then connect with strangers outside of that. That sounds so creepy.
No, I get it. I get it. There's something about familiarity, the lack of familiarity. There's something good about it. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know you well enough yet to really see you for who you are. And then everyone else, I'm like, I see you, you know me. It's like, we're so familiar. I need someone who doesn't know me for a bit.
Yeah. 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 And I still feel like I'm learning to accept people as they come. I think, and this goes back to like us being self-critical. I think, I meet people, and the stranger connection is just brilliant. It's great. It's so amazing. We're sharing life experiences, and we're spontaneously going to get ice cream or whatever the case is. And then it's like, once a person not tries, but once that kind of like line gets crossed, or that like, oh, like, well, let's be friends, or like, let just know, it's just like, oh, it gets really weird for me. I feel like I always have a list of reasons not to connect with someone on that level, so I'm still learning that, once you really get to know people, that they too are just not perfect, like we are not.
I wonder if it's a reflection of you more than it is them.
Oh, I didn't think so. I would say initially I never thought about it and didn't think so, but I'd like to think I do a lot of like self reflection, and it probably is, but I also think I think it's also I think it's most of us. I think the idea of like a person judging, criticizing, or not wanting to be around another person, like that is something that is taught. You are taught to feel that way about, you know? So I think in most cases it is about ourselves and how we look at ourselves, and wanting to be, as opposed to the other person, because the reality of it is, at the end of the day, like literally every person is perfect for themselves. like that is who we need to be in this lifetime. And who am I to think or judge or anything otherwise? So we're all just, evolving every day, every single day. So no judgment.
No judgment. I'm aware this became a very deep discussion out of nowhere, and definitely not something I ever intended. But something I wanted to ask you about was your transition from, a corporate career or a career outside of artistry, and then moving into full-time art. What that was like, what prompted that decision, and what the period in between of like literally moving from one career to another career was like.
So writing has always been something I've done. So whether so before the performances, before anything, it was just something I've always loved to do generally. So I would personally like to think that it was my career before anything else was. It was what I wanted to do as a child. So I ended up in corporate America after going to college for some time, and it was pretty cool. I was like an office assistant in one of like the biggest organizations in my city, and I met a lot of cool people. I got to work with some kids. I learned a lot of just office aspects, technology aspects, and things like that. The issue was just that whole, you're waking up, going into this place for several hours a day, making someone else's dream come true. And then by the time you commute home, you have to shower and you have to, get your things together for the next day. You have to do dinner. You have to be a partner. You have to be a parent. You have to be a friend. You have to use whatever time you have to immerse yourself in your side projects or your side hustles or your actual passions. And then you have to make sure you're getting the right amount of sleep or you're going to be burnt out within a couple days. And it just was like, I was doing that for so long, just day in and day out. And it wasn't so much like a horrible thing, like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world, like I hate it. Like it just didn't suit me. I think during the day while I was sitting in the office, I just had so many ideas, so many things I was thinking about doing by the time I got off of work, but by the time I got home, I had no energy, or I just was so frustrated because of the things that was happening at my job. And and when you're in a survival mode, when you're in I hate this place, but I need this money to make these bills so that I can do that. Like it was just so tiring. It was really, really exhausting. And I was actually in corporate for about 5 years. I was there for 5 years. And yeah, finally at the end, I didn't leave until it really started affecting my mental health. Like, I was having the worst dreams. I wasn't sleeping. My anxiety was through the roof. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. It just was like just a super chaotic situation for my nervous system all around. And I remember there was a passing in my family that kind of really opened me up to life, like what it means to be alive and to take advantage. And at the time, I didn't have any responsibility tying me down where I felt like I had to keep that position, where I had to just stay in that space. It was just like, okay, it's been 5 years. I've been kind of just on the same role. I have to shake things up. Like I have to do something differently. So initially I'm kind of like an impulsive person sometimes. So I initially wanted to just pick up and leave. But I remember I vividly like remember making a plan, like a financial plan. Like this is how much I'm going to have to save up if I want to leave. And I had these amount of months to this is my safety month or two, and then I have to get to work. Like I just had it all planned out. So I ended up leaving corporate, and it was it was going very well. I think until maybe about 8, 9 months later, it hit me that the fluctuation of income was like an actual thing. And although I felt really safe in that situation, although I felt safe in like my planning, it got a little scary. It got a little weird. I remember there being a point where I was just like, oh, I think I did the wrong thing. Like I shouldn't have left corporate. Like I wasn't getting as many shows as I thought. I wasn't getting as many clients. And in hindsight now, I don't think I was doing as much work as I could have been doing. But um, yeah, and I remember I just calling people. I was calling like former coworkers, and I was just like, hey, like, how's the job going? Like, is it any better? Like, should I come back? Like, did I make a mistake in leaving? And they're like, no, like, just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And there were just certain things that were lining up outside of that kind of made me feel safe in the decision I made. So, I left. I had a rough couple of months, and then there was just a lot of personal life things going on. I went ahead and built my website, and it kind of just has been a persistent road since. Just I think I was doing everything I was doing before corporate. I just think that this time around, it almost felt like I had nothing to lose. Like it almost felt like I had no other choice. And to be completely honest, I know this might sound cheesy, but in the same year that I left corporate, our family dog had puppies, and I am a huge animal advocate. So I love them more than I probably love humans, probably, or it's probably like on the same level. But I love animals. I love dogs, and it was for me. It came like, oh no, like how like some people, they're kind of like just going through life, and then they have a child and they're like, oh no, I need to get my shit together, and I need to, like, I kind of did that before the dogs, and I was just like, like, no, we're gonna have this, guys, and we're not gonna have to worry about, so it was just a multitude of things that happened. And yeah, it's been really great. I ever Since I've left, I think I've accomplished a lot more than I thought I would have. Like I had a list set out of things that I wanted to do, and I maybe didn't accomplish all of those things, but there's like a list of 20 other things that happened, and that I couldn't even fathom, that I couldn't even imagine for myself. So that was great, even being able to raise the puppies, being able to travel to Austin or to New York, when I need to. So, and just outside of even all of that, just I feel like I finally have been able to start finding my own community, like my own tribe. I spent so much time in this box, in this office, in this building, that I went straight from high school to college to corporate. So, I was once somebody's child, and I was someone's student, and then I was off, into the college world, yet, still being a student. And then I came back and I was someone's employee. And it was just like, at no point was I Ciara. At no point was I didn't know who that was. And it didn't feel heavy at the time. I just was out here winging it. But that was the goal. That was the goal. Just, I knew that I had me in my writing and my ambition, and that's it.
Well, I'm very glad that you chose not to, because not to continue with your corporate life, because we are definitely we benefit a lot from having you realize your potential and realize your creativity. I think a lot of people are already saying that. So that is very much true. And that imagery of not being your own is really powerful imagery of like, I'm someone's child, I'm someone's student, I'm someone else's the whole way through. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that. I think, even everyone feels that. I think everyone goes to work, goes, literally, I don't know anyone, even if you own the business, even if you're the CEO of this massive company, I think that they also feel, speaking of animals and dogs, so cute.
They literally walked in.
Yeah, they heard you. But yeah, I think everyone feels that way. I think literally everyone's like, back. I'm back. My holidays are over, and they're not in control. And I know the feeling of like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this admin? Like, why? I mean, I still have a full-time job as I do this. And there are moments during the day where I'm like, what is the point? Like, literally, what is the point of this? I don't understand what I'm doing. And like, I'm just like doing the stuff. And it's just like, but I think that's why we see so many people doing their side hustles. I think that's why I think everyone has a side hustle. And if they don't, they definitely should, because they're trying to find their own independence and their own version of what life should be. I think it's an interesting time for us in general as a society.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I agree that I feel like a lot of people feel that way. And that's why I feel like just authenticity and self-express, like just being fucking truthful is just so important these days. Because I feel like we just look at other people and think, I mean, we see it in movies, we see it everywhere. Everybody has it together. And it's just like, no, some people wake up and they're like, fuck, like I gotta entertain my spouse, and then I gotta kids, and then I gotta deal with my boss, and I gotta come back home and then deal with my side hustle. Even, whatever it is, it's a constant, I'm just scattered everywhere else. And I think I don't want to say I think it's unfortunate, because I don't think even today, like I don't think I have all the resources to be my complete authentic self. And especially certain communities, certain races, certain cities, it all comes down to something. But yeah, I don't know, dude. That's another soft one.
Well, I think all you can do is lead by example and do what's right for you. And I know that every day that people like yourself take the risk and bet on themselves and are like, you know what? I want to do this. And they go, and you go out and you go through all the ups and downs, and you go through the roller coaster, and you go through that period of like, will I, won't I, regret, all of those things. That is part of the journey. It inspires a lot of people. And so I'm only thankful for the people that I get to speak to on a regular basis, because literally to take the risk of being an artist full-time, whatever it looks like, is a huge risk, but it's an important one that a lot of people really benefit from. So it's difficult to look outside yourself in that sense. You're like looking at yourself all the time, but I legitimately believe that. And so if you ever have doubt, or anyone has doubt about their own artistry or their own creativity, remember that it is important for the people that consume it and are exposed to it. And it may help them realize their own potential as well. So, yeah, I'm only thankful, and I'm glad that you are doing what you're doing, and you did what you did, as much as it may not feel that way at times. Because yeah, as we said at the beginning of the show, the amount of people that are resonating with the things that you do is amazing to see, and it just shows that those emotions and feelings you are having, you're not alone with them.
Yes, and that's been well, first of all, thank you for that kindness. I really, really do appreciate that sentiment. Thank you. But yeah, that's what's been just the most important. How many people, like you said, get it? I think sometimes when we're creating, we're thinking too much about what other people want to hear, what they want to see, if they're going to like it, if they're not going to like it. And very often I try to steer away from that and just kind of, write what you have to write, as I'm sure other creatives do. You kind of just block everything out and just do your own work, so to see that come to light, and then people authentically just kind of relate to it it's, man, I think I cried enough. I think once all the messages first started flooding in, I think it was like way too overwhelming. So I think I'm good now, but yeah, I still don't even think I have the words to explain how that feels, because it's not like unique. It's not new. It's not like I'm the only person in the world who's feeling these things and people are like, oh wow, like you're a walking movie. That's cool. It's like, no, we're literally the same person. We are the same persons in different experiences. And then that opens you up into like, what is life? What is what are the purpose? There's somebody in Greece right now going through the exact same thing. There's someone here, there's someone there. And, you know, and it's not the struggle Olympics as people like to call it. It's just shared experiences. So I'm just really grateful. At the time, I don't think I was grateful for any of the experiences that kind of sparked the fire to my pieces. But at the moment, you see it full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be overwhelming, and I think it's scary and overwhelming and amazing all at the same time, because then it's like, oh, now all these people are looking at me and I'm their source of like expression, and now that's a lot of pressure as well. And like as we're talking, I can see the look where you're like, oh yeah, I go through that a lot of like, yeah, it's a lot of pressure now because a lot of people don't have the ability to share what I'm sharing, and even though they feel the same way. So yeah, I'm, as much as it is tough getting the dreams and the things that you want, like it is a good thing. And yeah, it is very much a good thing. I think the hard part is not letting the pressure change you and change your art, because what made your art so good is no pressure. And like, I know, and you will 100%, everyone does it. Everyone's like, hey, can you make that piece or do that art that I'd liked a lot, a year ago or 6 months ago? Can you do that again? And it's like, well, if I could, it wouldn't be authentic because I'm not feeling that way anymore. So I think that's the other side of the coin, is once you feel the adoration, it's like a different emotional pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. I think I'm still processing, and especially like on how I'm going to move forward. But I think it's really important what you said about just like the whole, like just kind of like the calmness of it all. So it's just like, even with all of this, I know I'm not sure if you ever seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand where maybe you're following somebody on social media and then they have that blow up overnight sensation kind of thing. And then they're constantly putting out content. And at some point you don't hear about them that more, or you don't like it kind of they're still making content, but it kind of like fades, like the name kind of fades. And I kind of watched that happen with so many creatives, and that's been like a concern of just like, that's why that whole authenticity and just like moving at your own pace and taking your breaks and taking your rest are so important, because you can't allow that to turn you into a system that you're not, and now your stuff is inauthentic, or you're not feeling it, or it's just not in alignment with who you are or what you intended to set out to do. And it's just so what's been really just a huge reminder every day is just like, all right, like, I didn't this didn't come in by like a marketing strategy or because I did this and this and that. It just, fortunately I was in a position to like know the right people and like, you know, the right platform. It actually has a lot more to do with other people and I think what they did as opposed to anything, you know, I've done the work, obviously. I've done the footwork, but it's a lot of just like just like letting shit fucking happen.
Yeah. Get out of your own way sometimes. But I
Yeah.
think you just showed right time, right place. Expression was the thing that was needed at the time. So yeah, I think it all culminated. It was like it all happened the way it was supposed to happen. And, you know, and like you said, in the weirdest way, all the experiences you went through needed to happen so that you can go through those right now. But I only have one more question for you. And I feel like I've asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I'm sorry. My space is starting to get a little dark and my light only gets so bright. So I guess that's okay. That's great timing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm definitely
there.
aware. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours, and I think there is only a limited audience that could do a 10-hour podcast. So might be a good excuse to have you on again later down the track and revisit where we're at. But my last question probably has nothing to do with anything we talked about. But if you had to recommend one album of music that everybody should listen to at least once, just to appreciate, just to get an appreciation of something that you think is underappreciated, what would it be?
Wow. Okay. Entire album that I think is underappreciated. Whew.
Isn't it funny? Out of all the
Wow,
questions I've asked you today, that's the hardest one.
yeah, isn't it? Because I'm like, wow, this isn't something I even, okay, let's go, Ciara. Let's think about something. Okay. I don't think any of Lil Kim's albums are underappreciated. So I'm okay, something new. Okay. I have something in my head, and I'm only gonna say this because I've been putting a lot of did you say hip hop? Did it have to be a hip hop
No,
album?
any genre, any genre.
Okay. And it could be from any time, right?
Anytime.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be, people are not going to like this answer. They're
Why?
not going to like it because it's just not. Would it be considered an album? I would think so. A soundtrack album. Well, you would think so. Okay.
I'll take it.
Have you ever seen the musical Rent?
No.
Wow. Okay. So Rent is a musical. It's based in New York City during the AIDS pandemic. And it has amazing actors and actresses in it, and some I'm sure you may or may not be familiar. I'm not sure how much you like our movies.
I love, to be honest, Australia is like a mini version of the US. So everything that you have, we have like we're like your cousin in the sense that all the things and the trends that you have eventually flow down to us as well. So we get a lot of most of our content is American content, hence why this Aussie guy has a hip hop podcast where he mostly interviews Americans. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I love it. I'm here for it. So yeah, it's a musical, and I'm not too big on musicals unless they're like child like movie musicals, but there's something so brilliant about the setup, this like the music, I'm very big on lyrics, and I'm very big on things that don't sound mainstream or sound, so like if I can give you a really quick example, my friends don't like this either, and I remember another celebrity just caught heat for saying this in an interview, but when I was younger, Eminem, people were like, Eminem were so cool to me because there was something, it was about like the cadence, like when you hear something that you don't hear before, like you haven't heard before. I don't know, whatever. Sorry for the tangent.
Go for it.
Each song, I'm just like, sometimes I like listen to the song and like you expect this one word to go here or you expect this one beat to go here and it just doesn't happen that way. And you're just like, wow, that made my skin crawl, but that was kind of cool. Like, and those are the kind of sparks that I enjoy, because those are the kind of reminders that, like, there's so much life outside the box. Like, that's where life is, outside of the fucking box. So, and I just think it's a great movie. It's diverse, it's inclusive, it's um well, it's a movie, but it's also we're not talking about a movie. We're talking about just the music itself. I think, and it just takes you on a ride. I think I like to think of myself as like an adventure kind of fantasy kind of person. So I think I could listen to that all day and literally go on an adventure, on a journey. But you have to be that kind of person. Like, you can't be like a hard man's man and be like, okay, like, I'm gonna go listen to this rant. Like, you're not gonna enjoy it at all. But if you have some sort of like a little open mind in there, I would check out a couple songs or two, or maybe the movie itself. But I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
I love that. I love the answers that I don't expect, because I get hip hop answers and then I get some albums I've never heard before as well, from hip hop artists who
Mhm.
are just like, hey, there's this really niche album that people haven't heard. And you never know. It may be the hard man's man
Mhm.
who needs to hear rant to open something up in themselves. So you never know who might listen. But I love that answer. As I said, I love just anything that inspires the people, that inspire others, is really interesting to me. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. You've been very open and very honest, something that you obviously aspire to do in not only, you know, in our discussion, but also your creativity. I think that, again, that's what comes through. And for anyone who wants to see more of Ciara's work, check her out, check her. Would you prefer people to go to your website? It's cchantelle.com, CI, and then your
Mhm.
.com, and her art is there. There's obviously TikTok videos, there's YouTube videos, her IG as well. But yeah, I'm excited to see you continue finding
Okay.
yourself in your art and your expression. I'm also excited to see what else happens in your career. It seems like, you're on the right path, and as much as there are doubts, you have a lot of self-belief, and I think that's what really does come through, is you're trusting yourself, as much as it may not feel like it. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I always appreciate it. And is there anything else you wanted to plug, anything else you wanted to shout out before we wrap up?
No, just, thank you again. Thank you for having me here. I will be in Australia, and I think 2 years actually. I'll be out in Australia. So, but yeah, no, just check out the website, check out the work. I do have some new things coming up soon. I have some live performances also coming up in the next month or two. And yeah, I also just have some new additions that I just will be adding onto my website this weekend. And subscribe to my monthly newsletter.
And while you're subscribing to stuff, feel free to subscribe to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. I mean, you're already here. If you listen to this long, you're probably one of the subscribers anyway. But yeah, as I said, it's been awesome.
Yes, this has been great. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate this.